What if we could like rewind history, you know?
Oh, back to like right after the Soviet Union collapsed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Could we have
It's a fascinating thought.
like changed anything about how things are now between the US and Russia?
Like if we knew then what we know now.
Yeah, someone actually did try to warn us about this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out this guy, E. Wayne Mary, his diplomatic cable from 1994.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just declassified, and it's like we're looking back in time.
Like a message in a bottle.
Totally.
Wow.
So what did he say?
Well, think about it. Back then, everyone was so optimistic about Russia, like a brand new world order democracy was going to flourish, good times.
Yeah, all that hope. Exactly.
Yeah. But Mary, he was the chief political analyst at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, and he had a different take.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did he see that others missed?
Well, he saw just how hard it would be for Russia to shift from like 70 years of communism to a market economy.
Yeah, that's a huge transition.
Like trying to rebuild a plane while it's still in the air.
Ooh, that's a good analogy. And the shock therapy that the West was pushing, rapid privatization, opening the markets all at once.
It had some pretty devastating effects.
Right. I've heard some Russian scholars even compare it to a medium-level nuclear attack.
Economically and socially, it was a catastrophe for a lot of people.
So that's where Mary's cable gets really interesting. He wasn't just criticizing, he was predicting all of this.
So he saw the downsides of this shock therapy approach.
Totally. He said democratic forces in Russia are in serious trouble. We are not helping with a misguided overemphasis on market economics. There is no reason to believe the Russian economy is capable of rapid market reform.
Wow, he was really going against the grain there.
Big time.
Yeah.
While everyone else was celebrating, Mary was like sending up warning flares.
And was he right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And get this, he even got specific about Ukraine.
Ukraine?
Yeah, way back in '94.
That's incredible in hindsight.
Right. His analysis of Ukraine is amazing. He wasn't focused on the usual trouble spots like the Caucasus. Instead, he zeroed in on those 25 million ethnic Russians living outside of Russia, a lot of them in Ukraine.
He was really paying attention to the demographics.
And he even pointed to Crimea and eastern Ukraine as potential conflict zones.
Wow, he was spot on.
It's like he had a time machine.
So how did he see that coming?
Well, I think it comes down to what Mary was saying about respect, or the lack of it. He felt the U.S. was all about imposing its own model on Russia without really understanding the country or its people.
So it was more about molding Russia in the West's image than helping it find its own path?
Exactly. And that lack of respect is what Mary thought would lead to trouble.
A recipe for disaster.
He wrote, "The key to a constructive American role in supporting the growth of Russian democracies is mutual respect. We should show respect because Russia is their country to do with as they see fit."
Powerful words.
Yeah. He believed that forcing a model on a proud nation like Russia would create resentment, and that resentment simmering for years could lead to conflict.
And looking at what happened with Crimea in 2014 and the current war, it makes you think.
Right. What if things had been different? What if the U.S. had taken a different approach?
One based on understanding and respect.
Yeah, instead of trying to dictate everything.
It really makes you wonder.
This whole idea of respect in international relations, it seems almost old-fashioned now, doesn't
Pretty cheap, yeah.
But Mary makes a compelling case for why it matters.
He really does. And it raises a big question. Could genuine respect, acknowledging a nation's right to choose its own path, could that have changed the course of history?
It's a thought-provoking question, for sure. One we'll have to keep in mind as we delve deeper into this cable.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear more. It makes you wonder, how all this lack of respect might have, messed things up between the U.S. and Russia.
It's like all those attempts to hit the reset button.
Oh, yeah.
They always felt like they were trying to fix something that was already broken,
It's like going back to that shock therapy thing.
Right.
Even if they had, done it more carefully.
Yeah.
Just the fact that it was a Western design economic overhaul, that was bound to make Russia feel resentful.
Like if you're having major surgery.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good the doctors are. You're not going to feel good about it if you didn't want it in the first place.
Exactly. You feel like someone's dictating to you instead of working with you.
Right. And that feeling never really went away even after the Cold War ended.
Yeah. It's like that underlying suspicion was always there.
And Mary's cable suggests that maybe the West accidentally made that suspicion even worse.
Yeah, he talks about respect involving recognizing another nation's earthly needs.
Earthly needs.
Not just material things, but their need for autonomy, for dignity, for a sense of control.
This reminds me of that philosopher Simone Weil.
Oh, yeah.
I read something about her ideas on respect.
She was all about recognizing the other person's reality.
Right, even if it's totally different from your own.
And that goes for nations, too.
So basically, Mary's saying the U.S. was so focused on changing Russia that they forgot to respect them.
And the consequences were pretty big.
Yeah, you can really see it.
Imagine someone's always telling you your way of life is wrong. You know, like you need to change to fit their model.
You're going to resist.
Of course. You might even dig in your heels even if some of their ideas are good.
Right. And that resistance can turn into resentment.
Totally. And then someone can come along and exploit that.
So Mary's cable is like a warning about how important respect is in international relations.
It's a reminder that our way isn't always the best way.
And that foreign policy is about more than just strategy and military power.
It's about people, their history, their culture.
Yeah, and recognizing that even with good intentions, we can mess things up if we don't listen.
And respect the people we're trying to help.
He wasn't saying no to reforms,
Right.
just that we have to consider the human element.
So how do we apply all this to what's happening now with the U.S. and Russia?
Yeah, things are pretty tense.
Well, first of all, we got to realize there's no quick fix.
Yeah, decades of mistrust.
You can't erase that overnight.
It's not like pushing a reset button.
More like rebuilding trust slowly, brick by brick.
So how do we even start?
Dialogue, listening to each other, trying to understand their perspective.
But we don't have to agree with everything they do, right?
No way. We can still stand up for what we believe in.
So respect doesn't mean saying yes to everything.
It means recognizing they have their own interests, even if we don't agree.
Finding a way to coexist even with those differences.
And maybe working together on some things, even small things, can build some trust.
Like we're all part of a global community,
Exactly.
facing the same problems.
Mary's cable focuses on a specific time,
Yeah.
but it's a timeless lesson about respect.
And about listening to different opinions even when they challenge us.
Getting Russia right isn't just about us.
It's about making a more peaceful world for everyone.
It's like Mary's cable is more than just advice about policy.
Yeah.
It's like a whole philosophy about how to deal with other countries.
It's about seeing the world from their point of view.
Right. And this thing about respect.
It feels like it's missing from so much of what's happening in the world today.
Think about it. If someone treats you with respect, listens to you,
Yeah.
lets you make your own choices.
You can be more open to them.
Exactly. Even if you don't agree on everything,
It's about building trust. You know,
finding that common ground.
we're all in this together.
Even if we don't always agree on how to get there.
And Mary really seemed to get that.
He did. He wasn't naive about Russia,
No.
but he thought respecting them wasn't just the right thing to do.
It was the smart thing.
Yeah. A relationship with respect is just more productive.
Even when you disagree,
You can actually talk, honestly.
find solutions that work for everyone.
And it keeps small problems from becoming big ones.
So as we wrap up this Iron, look at Mary's cable.
Yeah.
What are some of the big things you want listeners to take away?
I hope it gets people thinking differently about the whole US-Russia thing. It's
Sure.
complicated,
Long history.
but we have to understand that history.
Yeah, to deal with today and tomorrow.
I also hope it shows how important it is to listen to different viewpoints.
Like even if they challenge what everyone thinks.
Yeah, Mary's a perfect example.
Experienced diplomat knew Russia well.
But no one listened to him.
It makes you wonder what if they did.
Would things be different?
We'll never know for sure.
But it's a good question to think about.
Definitely. And one more thing I hope people take away from this.
What's that?
Thinking about what respect really means.
Between countries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what does it really mean to respect another country?
Even if you don't like what they're doing?
Does it mean you have to agree with everything?
Or is it about finding a way to talk and work together?
Even when you have different ideas?
That's something everyone has to figure out for themselves.
Well, one thing's for sure.
What's that?
Respect isn't weak.
No.
It's strong and smart.
And it can change things for the better.
So when you're thinking about the U.S. and Russia,
Yeah.
remember what Mary said.
History matters. Choices matter.
And respect can make a real difference.
Even when you don't see eye to eye.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.